Welcome to the WCB webinar series on workplace first aid regulations, presented by the Workers' Compensation Board of PEI. This video covers a summary of what's changed based on the 2021 amendments to the first aid regulations. Let's take a look at the amendments from 2021. The first one you'll see here is that first aid kits have changed. CSA Standard Z 1220-17, First Aid Kits for the Workplace, defines a new classification system for first aid kits, which you can see here as Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3. Types 2 and 3 offer varying sizes of small, medium, and large. The minimum requirements for the contents of kits and the type, number, and size of kits shall meet the requirements in the CSA Standard. A description of contents and sizes can be found in our guide to workplace first aid regulations, which can be accessed on our website and which will be introduced in a moment. To determine which kit or kits you will need at your workplace now requires employers to perform a first aid risk assessment. In order to know what kit or kits you will need, it is required that a first aid risk assessment be performed for each workplace. No matter the size of your workplace, you will still need to perform the risk assessment and be able to produce it should you be asked by an OHS officer. If you have multiple locations across the province for your business, a separate risk assessment is required for each location. If you are uncertain on how to get started performing the risk assessment, you can find a template in the guide mentioned earlier in this video. Additionally, this webinar series offers a separate video on how to perform the first aid risk assessment. It is required that the risk assessment be completed by a competent person and in consultation with a safety committee or safety representative, and it must be reviewed annually. Let's take a look at what is a competent person. A competent person is defined in our regulations as a person who, 1, is qualified because of that person's knowledge, training, and experience to do the assigned work in a manner that will ensure the health and safety of persons in the workplace. And 2, is knowledgeable about the provisions of the Act and regulations that apply to the assigned work and about potential or actual danger to health or safety associated with the assigned work. In summary, there are 2 major changes to the first aid regulations. The first aid kit classifications have changed, so they now align with the CSA standard. And a first aid risk assessment is now required for all workplaces in order to determine the correct kit or kits for your workplace. These changes became effective on March 6, 2022. Let's take a look at some first aid resources. WCB has created a guide to workplace first aid regulations. This is your toolkit to determining the first aid requirements for your workplace. It can be accessed on our website at wcb.pe.ca. The guide will help you navigate the requirements in the Occupational Health and Safety General Regulations pertaining to first aid, as well as the CSA Standard for first aid kits in the workplace. You can also download our app from the App Store or Google Play to find the guide and additional information on first aid for PEI workplaces. If you wish to view the CSA Standard for first aid kits, CSA allows free, viewable only access to standards referenced in health and safety legislation across Canada. Users can register for a username through CSA Group's online communities of interest at community.csagroup.org. If you have questions, you can reach out to us either by email or phone, and we will be happy to assist you. And you can also watch our other videos to further help you understand the requirements in the first aid legislation.